Hi, good morning. Welcome to a fresh new episode of Dynamic CISO Talk Show today. This is a place where we get technology leaders to talk to us about the challenges, solutions, strategies around digital transformation, security solutions, future roadmaps, and trends. In line with that, I have the pleasure of having with me today Dhananjay Ganjoo, uh, the Managing Director for India and SAARC for F5, which is a pioneering organization in multi-cloud security and application delivery. Dhananjay is an industry veteran, doesn't need much introduction, and he's a well-known technology leader in India with expertise across the spectrum of technology and security domains. And there's a very special reason why we have Dhananjay today. Um, at its annual Agility conference, F5 recently announced a major expansion of its application security and delivery portfolio with the F5 distributed cloud services that provide security, multi-cloud networking, and edge-based computing solutions on a unified software as a service SaaS platform. It is also launching the first new solution of on this platform, which is F5 Distributed Cloud Web Application and API Protection, which augments multiple security capabilities across F5 technologies in one SaaS offering. And I will be speaking to Dhananjay in a short while about it. However, we shall begin our conversation on a few other things before bringing our focus onto it. Welcome to the show, Dhananjay. How are you doing?
Hey Rahul, thanks for having me here, and you couldn't have said it better. These are very, very exciting times for F5 with this new platform launch.
Thank you. Thank you for sparing time with us. So, give us a sense of the technology shift that has taken place very quickly, swiftly, and which is driven by the need for agility and speed. What are the quintessential elements of a CISO's or a CIO's new technology stack or new technology playbook?
Yeah, so we are in interesting times, and there are, kind of six areas that, and all around application. That's what, F5 does. If we observe the few things that have changed and changed quite dramatically, and we can't blame it all on the pandemic, right? There were changings that were happening. So if we see the way we write code has changed, the way we deploy code has changed, the way we control the code has changed, the way we consume the code has changed, the way we secure the code has changed, and the skills required to manage all of this has undergone a massive change. So there are not just one or two variables, there are several variables that are in the heads of the CISO and the CIO, because literally everything they have been used to in the four walls of a data center have undergone a massive change. So that's what is causing a huge amount of shift. And our job has been to make sure that we provide the same level of ease and security and innovation that our customers have been used to in their on-prem, whether it was containerized or not, whether it was monolithic or not, on-prem applications that were secure. And that's how the life was before digital transformation started this massive disruption.
Absolutely. So, what I gathered from your first opening statement is, and which is also true, that, everything starts and ends with that code. And that has undergone a tremendous change. As you said, that, how we write, deploy, consume, and secure code has changed. And especially, in the times when we had on-prem applications, on-prem data centers, things were quite, they were not as complex, they were not as challenging. However, the ease of innovation and the need for innovation and the need for more security has actually affected this change. So wonderfully explained. So an application-centric security strategy is the most difficult aspiration every organization today has, and is quite affected with many challenges. How important is it for organizations to think that way What are the downsides if they don't adapt to the changes that are occurring?
So if we look at it, Rahul, there are two types of industries in the Indian market, or for that reason, globally. One set is a regulated industry. For example, the BFSI industry in India is highly regulated. There are certain set of rules of technology that have been laid down by the regulator, and every bank or NBFC has to follow those regulator recommended guidelines. And these guidelines keep on getting updated. I think from if we look at it from that prism and in that industry, they understand what it means to deploy and protect an application. And I can actually walk you through when I say, the way we write a code, the way we deploy a code, all of that is changing. I can actually walk you through what has changed and how the life has, become more complex from the point of view of we are trying to solve something, but to solve something, there is another set of challenges that we need to take care of. It's not as if, life becomes simpler when you digitally transform your applications and move them all to the cloud. There's a different set of challenges. And that is what the industry needs to look at. So from the regulated point of view, there is enough and more traction. But from all other industry types, it depends upon the maturity of that industry. Large enterprises, absolutely no problem. But what we have done with F5 distributed cloud services is we are now able to kind of remove the veneer of complexity that security literally brings with itself and be able to protect applications from layer 3 to layer 7 across any installed environment, whether that be a private environment of a client or whether that be a cloud environment or mix of cloud or mix of private and public. It doesn't really matter. When you make it that simple and you remove the complexity, then the consumption becomes that much higher. So we are in that journey currently where we have managed to demonstrate our capability in the regulated environment, and that environment is also changing, and also be able to offer the same set of functionality feature set to an environment that has not been in the regulated watchdog, so to speak.
Yeah, so very rightly said that we can segregate industries into two segments. One is very highly regulated. All the banking, telcos fall under that, and the others which are non-regulated, and also that there are, industry and the leaders in technology and security are facing a different league of challenges when they are planning or they are moving their applications into the cloud.
Yeah.
So when you say that F5 through the new offering makes it simple for them and declutters the complexity. I was about to talk about the new launch, the ambitious launch, the cloud-based service of for web application and API protection. So if I may ask a little categorically, that what was the need for it, and what gaps does it bridge? How will that help the customers in safeguarding their digital presence and build a better trust?
Very interesting. When you say what gaps does it bridge, it actually bridges what we call a gap between creating an application. There is one way to look at it is I've created this really cool application. It is fast, it is great, but by the time it reaches the consumer, whether it is B2B or B2C, but by the time it reaches the consumer, the experience isn't great. And there is a massive complex path from the time you start writing the application to the time you deploy. And this path is what we saw as the greatest challenge to the CISO and the CIO. So if I were to go back to my statement in terms of how this platform is enabling all the changes and absorbing all the changes and making it simple, starts from when you're writing the code. Now you're writing the code from monolithic to containerized, right? Earlier, the traffic patterns were more north-south in your data center. Now that you've taken the applications outside your data center and you've broken them into smaller containers, your traffic is now API-based. When it becomes API-based, your challenge now becomes, oh, okay, how do I protect those APIs that are flowing in the network, which are now exponentially growing as compared to what it was, when my application was not containerized. Then when I'm deploying this code, there are several technology hoops, and we saw typically a CISO has to deal, or a CIO has to deal with about 13 different sets of technologies before a consumer can actually get a response on the click that the consumer did on the mobile app or on a web app. Doesn't really matter, right? 13. That means 13 different management interfaces. That means 13 different hoops, 13 ways that you need to figure out whether security is patched on all of them. And if you have replicated this across different clouds, then you're complicating your needs that much more. Third thing that this platform brings to the table is a single pane of control.
Yeah.
So we can now easily deploy and manage with a single pane of control all the technologies that you think are, or that a CISO and CIO requires. And the complexity really decreases from 13 technologies to just 3. And that is what is the simplicity that is brought to the technology, the C-suite that consumes this technology to deliver the ultimate result. And besides that, the functionality such as web application, firewall, and API protection, functionality such as integrated bot defense, because we can now see a massive amount of automation flow through, DDoS protection, DNS security, all these become easily available and consumable from a platform that is ubiquitous. So we have several sites around the world, as our CEO Francois often says, we used to be an ADC company. We are now a multi-cloud app security and delivery company. So we have now an application security and delivery business rather than just being an application delivery controller. And lastly, if I were to say one hidden cost, and probably one of the biggest challenges, not only for the customers, but also for the teams that support the customers, that is our partners, is with the rapid change in technology, how rapidly can skills be upgraded? It is just becoming, the skills are changing. The requirement for skills is changing massively. If you go multi-cloud, then the skills you need to learn is for literally every cloud is different. But if you put the F5 distributed cloud platform in front of those multiple clouds, then you require just one skill, the same skill that you had when you consumed F5 in your data center. So it's like, it's magical. It's almost magical is what we are bringing to the market currently.
Very beautifully explained, and a few noteworthy statements, from this previous answer are that most certainly, we are seeing a huge momentous shift from the monoliths, which are broken into smaller silos, and we see a great traction in the containerized environment, and therefore, how important is it for the consumers, for the CISOs and CIOs to take care of their web applications and API protection. However, if I may ask, that certainly you explained very well that from a stack of 13 technologies, it decomplexes it to just 3, and that's where the ease of use and simplicity comes in. So how will, in the SaaS model that you're offering, how will the consumers be able to adopt this new solution, the new technology? Will they have to rip and replace what they have, or what will be the approach?
No, it's a great question, because it always becomes a bottleneck. What do I currently have, and how do I evolve? And can I do it seamlessly, or do I have to do a massive truckload of replacement, and then it's going to cost me a huge amount of money? The simple answer is you don't have to rip and replace. Let me answer that question in another way. When the industry was consuming, and let's take maybe just one technology, like the web application firewall, for example. The web application firewall, which is at layer 7, protecting the application, it does its job best when you put it in blocking mode. That's what it's meant for. We observed that several of our clients, or several clients in the industry, while they had web application firewall, it was not in blocking mode, which was transparent mode. All the traffic was going through. We made sure first the application is put in blocking mode. Now, in the earlier generation of web application firewalls, what we saw was you really required a rocket scientist, a ponytail engineer to remember all the steps before the firewall went live and in blocking mode and did its job. Um, an engineer who was aware of layer 3 protection is not necessarily the right skill set for layer 7 protection. Layer 7 protection becomes even more complex because we need two skill sets. We need skill set of security, and we need somebody who actually is aware of how applications are written before all the features are switched on in a web application firewall. If we turn to the way we have deployed or are in the moment of deploying our F5 distributed cloud services, it is more wizard driven. It is more prompt driven. So there is not a chance that any engineer, whether the skill set is there or not, will actually miss a step. And the challenge we have taken is we can onboard an application. And this is it's a challenge I'm ready to take on. We can onboard an FQDN, an application, onto the F5 distributed cloud services in 5 minutes. And if we can't do it in 5 minutes, we are not worth our salt. We can onboard it and start blocking mode in 5 minutes. I haven't seen that being done in the industry in the past. So we've made it that simple and very wizard driven so that the deployment is that much easier. So that takes away a lot of complexity that we had seen that web application firewall was in its earlier avatar was bringing to the market. And then the addition of several other technologies like API protection, DNS security, DDoS protection are all add-ons on the platform that can be switched on seamlessly. And then you have two modes. You have a default mode that takes care of most of the things that are typically deployed. Or if you really want to play with the platform, there is a custom mode. And then if you do have a ponytail, you will be able to manage that even better.
Great. So if I'm not wrong, now is the time when we are seeing the integration of all the acquisitions that F5 did in the past. I mean, in the recent past, onto a single platform. Am I saying it rightly?
Spot on. So it's a journey, Rahul. I remember speaking with you almost 2 years ago, where you asked me, what's happening, what's going to happen, and I said, if I press the fast forward button, this is where we will land. We will become a software and a platform company, and I'm glad that journey is coming to reality. So if I go back 3 years or 4 years, we were a company that used to address, or rather maybe a decade ago, only the ADC, which is the NetOps teams. We used to just look at the network infrastructure teams. Then we added a whole slew of security products, Shape Security, Threat Security, which is the latest add-on that we have, Threat Stack for CWPP, the whole WAP and WAF and API security, the DNS security. These were discrete modules available with us. So we started addressing a large chunk of application security requirements to such an extent that 40% of our revenue became security revenue. So there are not many companies that have transformed, and from an ADC company to NetOps and a SecOps company. Then 3.5 years ago, we acquired Nginx because we thought one thing that was missing was where the applications are really born with the in the CI/CD pipeline with the DevOps team. So in that journey, now we address very successfully the NetOps team, the SecOps team, the DevOps team. So we have 3 personas that we go and address, and all of these can now be consumed off a platform. So a CIO or a CISO today does not really have to invest in a huge amount of infrastructure. They should be able to invest in infrastructure which is flexible, malleable, elastic, that can serve the purpose today. But when they hit an exponential ride, the infrastructure rides with them. Just like they have done on cloud, our technologies are exactly the same way. We will grow exponentially when the growth hits the customer's needs.
That's very rightly said. And again, I would just comprehend this whole thing that from a pure play ADC company, after a lot of acquisitions and streamlining those acquisitions, we can very safely say that it's now a full stack tech company, which addresses majority of the needs of any organization. However, wherever there are gaps, how do you address those gaps? By partnering with different OEMs and with different solution providers.
So in our stack of application acceleration and application security, we don't have gaps, but there are layers below L3. There are layers that will kind of build the structure of the network together. Or if you have gone, or if the journey is onto the cloud, there could be other technologies with whom we engage very seamlessly. To give you an example, again, back to the F5 distributed cloud services. In the POPs that we have created around the planet, and these are our own POPs that we manage ourselves in cages across various providers, and our own TCP/IP backbone, our own IP backbone that we have created. We peer with, let's say, public cloud providers in every POP. So if you had an app, or if a customer had an application on a public cloud and they wanted F5 distributed cloud services, their application could be advertised seamlessly across any cloud. So we peer locally with not only the public cloud providers, we peer with SaaS providers such as SFDC, such as Workday. These are other SaaS providers. So if our customers were consuming any of these SaaS technologies, our peering would then be able to assist them. And then with an application delivery network now, right? Secure app delivery network. If the app for an Indian client, for example, was published somewhere in a cloud outside in North America or Europe, our POPs or regional edges in North America and Europe would be able to peer and be able to expose those applications locally, thereby either traversing on our network or not traversing on our network and their own network. So the flexibility of network architecture is available, and the whole cloud peering and SaaS peering that we have built brings to fore a very interesting era for technology, which is, can I take my application closest to the customer, right? And that is what will dramatically change the landscape, which we believe is Edge 2.0, where if the application needs to be, let me postulate this, inside a container in an automotive vehicle, so be it, we'll be able to enable that.
Excellent. I think it's very logical the way you have explained, and how the progression has been very fascinating to me. So finally, let's talk about whatever little you can about the future roadmap of F5 vis-a-vis the changing world of business, if we may say so, and how do the two marry and ease the challenges that the businesses face. Here, I would like you to mention in detail about the key other key enterprise and enterprise solutions that F5 may be working on, which we may see in the future.
Don't have a massive looking glass, Rahul, to predict that, but let me answer it this way. If you look at our history, 25 years, right? We've been around for 25 long years.
Yeah.
We have not wavered in our paths. There is only one moment or one truth for us, and the single truth is application. And if you look around, application today is the true capital of any industry, any vertical, any industry, manufacturing to banking. Without application today, the industry itself collapses, right? So application is a true capital. And F5 has been razor focused on working around that myth of application, right? Or that reality of application. We built load balancers, then we brought security, and now we are doing the same thing as application itself kind of moved from the data center to the cloud. And we can now, you can now consume F5 technology across any cloud. And then in a recent acquisition that we did about 4 months ago, if there were any gaps, I thought there was one which was CWPP. And which is Cloud Workload Protection Platform, which is basically now that you have taken your workloads to the cloud, traditional WAF may not be able to manage all the security threats that you're exposing. And the CWPP technology kind of manages that bit as well. I thought that was brilliant. And it has been done in forethought rather than an afterthought, right? So with this launch, we not only, ratchet up our security game around the application, but we make sure that if there were any gaps, we have very, very quickly covered those gaps to make sure that our consumers of technology have a single sort of a vendor who can address all their security needs. And I remain confident if there are two areas. One is application itself, its delivery, and all security aspects of the application will continue to be a massive focus. The recent one being, as I said, CWPP and then API security. Because we've seen the east-west traffic move much faster, given that all the applications are now containerized and they're talking amongst each other in the east-west direction. The other thing that we're seeing that is changing in India now, it has changed almost in North America, and I can't see any reason why it won't be, is automation. In terms of, is the network that is coming to you machine or human? Is the human that is coming to you good or bad? Is the human that is now coming to you is who they really say they are in terms of synthetic identities? That will remain a key focus for F5, so that we can, continue to provide a very secure environment so our CISOs and CIOs are sleeping peacefully.
So, I jumped onto the last question, maybe a little premature. I'm really intrigued to quickly ask you, although I'm running short on time, and I will not hold you for long. But the element of Edge 2.0 that you briefly mentioned in one of your last answers, are you mentioning about F5's recent acquisition of Volterra? And how does that pan out when it comes to combining a lot of things, which includes the cloud, the CDN, the edge, and declutter the complexity there as well?
Yes, brilliant. Yes, it is the acquisition that we did almost a little short of a year ago of Volterra. Again, it was very clear to us that the way our customers were consuming and their customers were consuming applications was changing pretty rapidly. With Edge 2.0, what we mean is now that containerization microservices is getting adopted at a massive rate, we thought we'd take a step back and look at the way containers are consumed today. And the way containers are consumed today is a little tedious in its process. You need to lay out the compute, then you need to lay out the OS on top of it, then you need to lay out other technologies that will help it consume it. What if there was a code that was written ground up that was actually meant and not retrofitted for a microservices environment? And that was one of the key reasons for the acquisition of Volterra, because Volterra has only three components. It has the Volt console, which gives a single pane of management that I talked about. It has the Volt mesh that enables connectivity of applications across any cloud, private or public. So app 1 in cloud 1, app 2 in cloud 2 need to talk to each other. Today, it's a massively complex way that infrastructure providers make this connectivity. Volt mesh just collapses 6 technologies: routing, layer 3 firewall, layer 7 firewall, reverse proxy, API, all into one piece of code that gets you the connectivity. And lastly, Volt stack, that is the container in which, or rather the technology on which, a natural technology built ground up for today's container, not a technology that was written 10 years ago and you're retrofitting a container inside it. Thank you for asking that question.
No, thanks very much. It reminded me, because it actually sparked an alert that I must touch upon that particular aspect of not only the acquisition but the integration with the current F5 stack. Thank you so much, Dhananjay, for sparing your time. It was excellent and very warm talking to you.
Thank you so much, Rahul, for having me. I always look forward to speaking with you.